Check, 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 check. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, mic check, mic check. We are here at City Hall, Spokane City Hall. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, mic check, mic check. We are here at City Hall today doing a check on the mics. Good. The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We can catch up with the spokesman review later. So let me know if you guys are ready. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, everybody else? Okay. Okay. All right, well, I just want to thank everybody for being here today for an update on the WashDOT encampment. Joining me today is Spokane County Commission Board Chair Mary Cuney, Assistant Spokane Police Chief Justin Lundgren, and Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich. Spokane Fire Chief Brian Schaefer is also here in case you have any questions for him. Just to let you know, he is also the city's acting emergency manager right now. So I know you've all been following the encampment very, very closely. You're also very well of the concerns that all of us have with the conditions in the encampment and the devastating impacts that it has had on the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses. Crime is significantly up in the area, as are calls for police and fire service. The sudden shift in temperatures with near freezing overnight lows last night and the impending winter weather has only added to the urgency that we are all feeling about the overall public health and safety of the individuals inside that encampment. For those reasons, the city made the request of the Spokane County Department of Emergency Management to activate the Regional Emergency Operations Center. This will allow us to dedicate the strength of our collective resources to a challenge that requires immediate action now. Our plan is based on the November 15th expectation for decommissioning that encampment. We're working well together as a region when we responded to the unique challenges of the COVID pandemic. We learned just how important it was to collaborate on short timelines, and the partnerships that we fostered then are only going to help us now navigate the unique challenges of the encampment. Protecting individuals from extreme elements as they are connected to resources, and also to help the neighborhoods and the businesses who have been severely impacted by the camp. Our plan, which Sheriff Knezovich, as the County Emergency Management Lead, will detail for you a little bit later, is to use our regional resources to support the critical assessment work that needs to happen to meet those individual needs. And that work will be done indoors using a navigation center approach that we've been learning more about as we saw up close on a recent trip to Houston. That city is successfully addressing homelessness and encampments. In fact, Houston has moved the needle on homelessness and created a model that cities across the country are looking at. In the last 10 years, they've reduced homelessness by 65%. Representatives from the city of Spokane, the Spokane Valley, the county, and community members visited Houston last week to learn more about their work of service and housing connectivity. Houston's Mayor Turner and his team were very generous enough to walk us through their resources, their processes, and their learnings over the past decade. And the results there have been very impressive. It is the 4th largest city in the country, and they're getting attention from cities all over, New York, LA, Denver, Atlanta, including ourselves who were there, and Delaware, the state of Delaware was there when we were there too, to learn about their processes. We were able to spend some time talking about how they decommission encampments, and we visited their newest navigation center that's set to open very, very soon. The takeaways were many, but 2 things stand out. Spokane has the same tools in place. We just need to do a better job of working together regionally, and the navigation center approach and resources are very similar to what we've already created at TRAC, the Trent Resource and Assistance Center. What we learned in Houston confirmed that we are on the right path to meet the real and urgent needs that we have here in Spokane. We've already documented 59 people that have moved from the camp to TRAC without a concerted effort. We've been meeting with representatives from the state departments of transportation and from commerce over the past several weeks. That discussion will continue as we work together to find a way to get people quickly indoors, into services, and eventually connected to housing. And so now I'd like to introduce County Commissioner Mary Cuney.
Thank you, Mayor. Spokane County is more than supportive in taking a collaborative approach to resolving the incredibly complex and urgent need to get people out of the elements and into resources before the harsh winter weather is upon us. We do know that this is going to be a La Nina year, which means a colder, wetter winter. And so it's important that we get these people into a safe, dry environment. Spokane has those places available to get the people out of the elements and the resources available to meet individual underlying needs associated with homelessness. Meeting those unique needs requires coordination and a more controlled environment out of the elements and the collective support of the region. Opening a formal emergency operations center and utilizing the region's resources to the fullest is an indoor setting that includes overnight accommodation, meals, storage, safety considerations, and resources under one roof, producing the best possible outcomes. I was part of the group that did visit Houston last week. The care, coordination, and collaboration their consortium of agencies has assembled is delivering results that cities like Denver, Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, and others are learning from. We learned those same examples, and as the mayor said, we have a lot of that already in place, and so we will be able to use that knowledge that we got there to develop this navigation center. Over the past 2 years, our community has added capacity to the system, improved resources, connectivity, and increased opportunities to get out of streets, alleyways, and fields. We are in a unique position to apply those resources for meaningful change for those staying in the camp and living and working around it. We've also heard extensively from the neighborhoods most impacted. They feel forgotten, frustrated, and caught in the middle. So it's time for us to take these steps. So at this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Spokane Assistant Police Chief Justin Lundgren to talk about this urgency.
Thank you, Commissioner Cuny. As the mayor mentioned, calls for police services have risen significantly in the neighborhood on both sides of the freeway since the camp originated. The Spokane Police Department has dedicated resources to the neighborhood, and the city has supplemented our officers with private security. Despite those efforts, crime has persisted. Part 1 violent crimes have increased by 114%, and Part 1 property crimes have increased by 80% within a quarter mile of the camp when compared to a 3-year average of the same time period. Our officers are continuously responding to calls in the neighborhood, especially at night. They also respond to emergency calls inside the camp. However, conditions in the camp have created officer safety concerns when we do respond there. I want to be clear that there is a criminal element in that camp, and that's quite apparent. And we're working on addressing that element. But I also want to make the distinction that there are many people in the camp who need the type of services we are offering through this collaborative activation. While officers are trained to help individuals access services when they are needed, the volume of need in this camp exceeds the capacity of just our officers, and the best way to address those concerns is away from the elements and exposure from the weather. I'm now going to turn the podium over to Sheriff Knezovich for details about the plan and how we intend to address those needs. Thank you.
The reason over the last 2 days I've been asked why the EOC. The EOC is very important to operationalizing our resources. It gives us the flexibility to purchase items immediately based on the emergency proclamation. There are things that we need to accomplish, and those things need to be accomplished in very short order to bring all of the resources of this community to bear in order to get the people that quite frankly are trapped in Camp Hope out of that environment, which is not safe. It is crime-ridden. It is a public health issue, and you have the weather compounding that factor. This is better done in safe, clean environments, not out in the snow and the cold, not putting people's lives at risk. We have providers that are more than willing to come on board, but they will not go into the camp because they see the camp as too dangerous. So transitioning the camp into better controlled environments, as in warm, dry, and secure. That is one thing that Camp Hope does not provide, is the humanitarian aspect to this effort. No one in this room, if you're serious, can look at me and go, having people live in that condition is humanitarian, is compassionate. We have the opportunity to change that dynamic. I'm sad to announce that an effort that has been in the works for the last 10 days has fallen apart, in that we reached out to the state of Washington and asked them to come to the table. We talked to local service providers. I met face-to-face with Zeke Smith. Zeke and I came up with a plan to have this camp substantially reduced by December 1st, with extended time if need be. The state said no. They will not come to the table. In order to even have those discussions, I had county legal step back and set our abatement process on a very slow track as a sign of good faith towards the state. What the state has come back with is, unless that legal action, both the city and the county's legal actions, are stopped, they will not come to the table. They say they can't. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not true. What is true is, in every legal action, there's always sidebar comments, always sidebar meetings, and mediation. We had the opportunity not to have to go to a court. We had the opportunity not to have an adversarial finger-pointing fest anymore. But that fell apart. And it fell apart simply because of an unwillingness of the state to work with its local partners and politics. We have the opportunity and the ability as a community to rescue those in the camp, and then let's focus on the lives that are being destroyed in the neighborhoods because of the fear that camp brings to their neighborhoods. You have an elementary school affected by this camp. How many of you would want your second graders going to Libya Elementary, knowing that homeless encampment members are invading that elementary school property, putting their faces up to the windows? How do I know this? I talk to people. I've talked to parents. I've talked to school officials. I've talked to business leaders. What happens if Fred Meyer does close because of the losses they are facing? That is the only walking distance grocery store in that very much minority and underserved community of East Central. Who cares about them? We have to bring an approach that rescues everybody in this. And we have to do it in a time frame that protects lives and protects people. People forget that this is not about the state, city, and county pointing at each other going and blaming people, because I asked everybody to drop that luggage and come to the table to fix this. Well, city, county, our local partners are coming together to fix this. The door's still open for the state. It's up to them. They can choose to be good partners, or they can choose not to. It is a choice at this point. But all I know is our community deserves better. Our community is going to get better from its elected leaders, and we are going to solve this issue not in a year, not in 8 months, but in a very short order, within 3 to 4 weeks. This can be done. And that's why the EOC is up. That's what it brings to the table. And that is what we are going to do for our community. Everyone, from the homeless to the neighborhood to the business. 500,000 people should not be held hostage because the state doesn't want to come to the table. The door's open. Luggage has been dropped on our part. Hopefully they can drop the luggage on their part, come to the table and help us resolve this prior to somebody suffering some kind of fatal injury due to cold weather. Thank you very much, Mayor.
So we're going to open it up to questions, if anybody has. I'm sure there are some.
Mayor, once again, sorry, can you describe when the EOC is going to open and where?
The EOC started open today, and it is at the Department of Emergency Management at the county.
What's the plan, now that it's open, what's the plan now moving forward? I was hoping the sheriff could maybe.
I can have the sheriff speak more specifically about that.
Do you remember the COVID event? Well, that's what you can expect coming out of this effort. It's going to bring the teams together. We will form work groups. We will start bringing all those assets together and putting them into play and getting all the necessary items. Connexes to store property. There are 4 things the state said we have to do. Shelter and services, take care of the property, provide security. In my opinion, 4th is really on them to clean it up. We can do all 3. We are confident that we have the ability today to do all 3. The EOC builds the game plan, puts the planning phases in, holds people to timelines, and we get this done. That's what you can expect. That's what it looks like. And that's as deep as I'm going to go into operations, because I could be here all day describing that. You've seen what an EOC does. You know what an EOC does. It brings everybody together, proper planning, proper resource acquisition, and proper resource optimization. That's what it does.
Regarding COVID, because you just mentioned that, what concerns does the city and county have about moving 400 people into the Trump shelter, which is already having COVID outbreaks?
The same concern we have with them being at the camp. Dr. Vasquez made that very clear, that he is very concerned about that, and he's more concerned about that at the camp than he is at a shelter. So red herring on that line of thinking of, oh my goodness, think about it. What spreads disease the most?
Indoor transmission for COVID.
Some, but it's actually the conditions that you're living in. If you're healthy, you're getting proper nutrition, you're being taken care of, your body is more stable, and you can fight infections better. You contrast that with what's going on at the camp, and you tell me that any of that's being met truly at the camp. It's not. This is not the proper environment. If you're talking about a medical situation, you're talking to a former Army medic. I would decommission that camp yesterday, simply on the health conditions. So, no, we're not concerned, and Dr. Vasquez is not truly concerned about putting them in shelters versus having them out in a tent where they're going to be in tighter, closer spaces if they're sharing a tent. Think about it.
The navigation center,
Okay.
is that,
Speak up a little bit louder.
is the city and county launching a new navigation center, or is Trent going to be the main navigation center?
Trent is going to be the navigation center, and I'll let the mayor speak to that.
And that was a conversation that we were having before our trip to Houston, was how we could expand Trent for inclement weather in accordance with the city council's ordinance that requires us to, whether it's a heat wave, cold season, or wildfire smoke. But as we looked at the encampment and wanted to come up with ways that we could address that sooner, we were not getting a timeline commitment by the state. We were hearing that they were willing to allow the encampment to be in existence well into next year, spring or summer. We looked at using track as a navigation center type approach, and it just confirmed to us when we went to Houston that we were on the right track all along, because that's exactly what they're doing. So it's basically bringing people inside in a temporary situation, connected to services, meals, showers, restrooms, and then having them have a temporary space while they are waiting eventually for the housing options that will come their way, rather than being in a field, in a tent, with frozen ground and snow falling around them. Yeah.
With this, so moving everyone to Trent, is it November 15th, Trent will be ready? Will we give them?
We are getting Trent ready now. The goal of November 15th is the decommission date. That's the goal. But with the EOC now up and operating, we'll be working every single day to make sure that we have all of those spaces. We believe that we have the space capacity, not just at track, but in some of our other facilities as well. And that those assessments can continue, and that people have a safer, warmer place to stay, and that they can be in a position of being indoors until they're connected to housing.
Sheriff, I wanted to follow up with something you said, that people are being trapped at this camp. Who exactly is trapping these people?
Quite frankly, Esther, they're being lied to. They're being told they're going to receive a tiny house or a stipend if they hold out. That's not true. So whenever you start building false hope, you are basically trapping them in that environment because they expect something. There is no tiny house or pallet house coming. It is a falsehood. And to incentivize not moving forward in that way, you tell me that's not entrapping people with a false promise. That's what's going on, and that's what's happening at the camp.
And then you spoke very candidly with me yesterday about how you cannot force anyone to leave. You said that to me, that you cannot make anyone leave. So we hear that 59 people have willingly gone to Trent. So how are you expecting to bring 442 additional people to there on their own if you can't make them leave?
Let's put context to that conversation. The only person that can save their lives that are currently at Camp Hope is the individual. They have to make a choice. They have to choose to accept the help. They have to choose to transition from what they're currently in into safer, cleaning house. That is a choice. No one can make them make that choice, so that's the proper context. I can't go to them and go, you will make the right choice. This is an individual choice. You have to choose. And there are people that aren't going to make that choice. Once we get to that level of, they're called housing resistant, homeless, then we're going to switch into, all right, you don't choose to move, we're going to move you now. So there's that component. But the proper context of our conversation is this. Esther, if I say that there's a $1,000 over here, you walk over or you can get it, it's your choice if you're going to do it. If you're in Camp Hope and I say there's a better, cleaner, safer facility waiting for you, and you choose not to come, that's your choice. And there's really low-hanging fruit out there. You have people that are working currently, saving money because they want to get housing. Well, guess what? That's easy to fix. A housing voucher, and they're out of that camp. Choice. So those are the things that we can bring to bear as a community in order to resolve this. So it's just like if you're involved in the criminal justice system and the cycle. The only person that can make you leave that is you. And I've asked that of many people that we put through programming. I asked this question: who in this room determines your fate? And you know, it's amazing, the inmates all know it's them. So it's the same with the homeless. Now, there are those that have mental health issues that we're going to have to work with, come up alongside, and help them in that decision. And we have the skill sets to do that in this community. But it's ultimately going to come down to choice.
And then, sir, last month you called this a 10-month protest that has been going on now for so long, and now you're really flipping, I would say, what you're saying, and that you really want to help these people get connected to services. What changed for you in your role with kind of going in as law enforcement to disband this protest to now helping these people get connected to services?
Well, that would be a misinterpretation or the way you interpreted my words. I've always been, and when we had our first meeting a month ago, the value statement that we put on the board was to have this camp resolved without using any law enforcement means. So, your interpretation of my words or your interpretation of my words, I can't fix that. I've stopped trying to worry about what the spin cycle is going to do. I can tell you the goal was to clear this camp in the most humane way without ever using law enforcement from day one. But what was put out was sheriff's just going to come and clear the camp. Well, not the case. We're going to do this as orderly as possible. Nothing changed, except maybe you should ask better clarifying questions. But that's the reality. Nothing changed. We are moving in the same pattern, and actually in the press conference I gave you the pattern. October 10th, what resources do we have? October 20th, a plan to operationalize those resources. October 25th, operationalize resources, i.e., we have just done that. We stood up the OC. Provide as much service as we can up until, and at the time it was November 10th, and remove as many people from the camp without law enforcement possible. That was all given to you. Why wasn't that told to the public? So that's where I am. Next question. Sure. Arrests are on the table. And I said it again today, didn't I? I said, if you choose not to, but I'm not going to sit and argue with you over it. That is always in the background. For the homeless resistant, which even the providers identify and have told me, Sheriff, there's going to be X that you can't remove. You're probably going to have to use law enforcement to do that. We will end up doing that. So to paint this as simply a law enforcement thing, wrong. And it's been painted that way. And again, I'm not going to debate with you on that issue. The record's clear. Look at the video.
I do have a follow-up for you on a different question regarding your conversations with Steve Smith and the Fire Health Foundation. That plan you're describing with the December 1st potential, kind of timeline, potentially longer. If the state does come back to the table, is that something that's still on the table, that plan with Steve Smith? And what did that plan look like?
Always. Always. We're always open to people coming to the table, and we're always willing to mitigate and change. But that plan looks like bringing everybody's resources together, and I'll guarantee you, if that happens, this is wrapped up in short order. We know it can be wrapped up in short order. So why December 1st? Pretty simple. You have 120 new beds coming into this community on December 1st. So with that in mind, if the state comes back to the table, yeah, it magnifies the economy of scale and exactly what we're doing, gives us more to bring to the table together. It's up to the state. The state has that option, but the county and city are moving forward.
Could you confirm the capacity of our shelter space right now? You mentioned an outpatient center. We're seeing some with
Well, we have just more than 150, which was the first maximum. 250 was the next maximum number, but can certainly flex beyond 400. And that was always part of the plan. And that was based on weather, council's ordinance, and then especially with the winter weather coming with the warming season component to that. We can get you some more updated information on the regional system and the shelters within the regional system and what the capacity is there.
So Trent has reached its current max.
No, it can go much higher than it is now, much higher. Our goal was to get it to 150, and then to surge it to 250, and then it can go well beyond that.
So sorry, where is it at now?
150, right about 150. Mhm. Yeah, Colin.
This is a question, I guess, for both the city and the county, but especially the county. The state's made it clear that they're going to negotiate, they would want the county to drop its lawsuit. What would the county consider dropping its lawsuit, and if not, why? They're saying they're willing to negotiate.
Did you say city or did you say state?
The state has said if the county would be willing to drop its lawsuit, and I'm more willing to negotiate and work with.
Well, it'd be nice if they would come to the table and actually present that eye to eye, so we know there's some good faith here, rather than just another attempt to keep stalling things out. But we did put that on the back burner. I went to my attorney and said, call the AG, tell them that we're willing to take this off, just come to the table. They haven't. And I see no reason to if they're not willing to even come and have that sidebar. They're not willing to even go that far. We did that. We stepped back and we said, put it on the back burner. Don't lose our court date in case they decide they don't want to. And we actually didn't think we were even going to have to get there. We truly thought, as of Saturday or Sunday afternoon, that we were going to actually be able to pull this off. We, being myself and a core of people that have been talking with the state, back channel, trying to resolve this issue. But now the state is, again, with the red herring, doing the finger pointing, it's your fault. No, it's nobody's fault. If you simply would just come to the table, we don't have to go to court. We don't have to do any of it. But we need a good faith movement on the state's part. So far, there has been no good faith movement on the state's part. And matter of fact, there are certain people that have looked at me and went, Sheriff, we told you so. We told you this was not going to work as far as bringing the state in. They have no desire. I'm still hopeful, and I told you so doesn't mean much to me, as long as we can find people that are willing to come to the table. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you advocate for the state. This is on the state. We did every good faith move that we could make in good conscience to bring them to the table. We stepped back. We came up with a plan. Their provider and this community came up with a really good plan. It is the state who has chosen this path. And that's as far as I can go with it, because this really truly has to end. What you're trying to do is build that finger pointing again, and quite frankly, I'm not buying into it. I'm not going to let you use me as a wedge issue against the state, or the state use me as a wedge issue against the city or the county. This is big boys and big girls should be able to come to the table and act like adults. I'm waiting for that day.
Sheriff, the state says why you weren't there 10 months prior. Why are you coming to the table now? You were not part of these conversations when this camp was smaller, when it was more manageable. So why are you getting involved now? Big boys, big girls, you're getting involved now. Why not then?
Well, once again, Esther, You're trying to play the controversy card, and you are, and I'm not going to argue with you, Esther. That's what you're doing. But here's the reality. I've been involved with discussions with the community since May. I came to the mayor, and the mayor can tell you, I came to her in July and said, any help I can give you. I finally came when the mayor set a date and said, are you ready? And she said, yes. So that's why I'm involved now. But I have been involved for a long time, speaking with the community, trying to find a resolution, and that's why I am involved now. And quite frankly, I can't help it that the state seems to not be able to understand that that camp is also affecting residents of Spokane County, residents that elected me, residents that elected the commissioner, and we are trying our best to help the city at this point fix this issue and bring it to resolution. That's why.
So one more question. I think if you have any other questions, you can do it in the brief. There's one more.
Mayor Woodward, you said that the Trent Center is going to be the main clearinghouse for creating this navigation center. And Sheriff Knezovich has said that one of the benefits of the emergency order is that it kind of frees up resources to do more free-like acquisitions. What confidence should the taxpayers have that there's going to be solid contracts and solid contractor vetting when the current operator of that shelter is under investigation and has a right to force on it?
Yeah, I can't speak specifically right now to the current operator. We will have an update for you, though, by the end of the week. So I'm very confident with what we'll be able to tell you at that time. Okay, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.